The wait for Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4's release was excruciating.
Actually, what the fuck?
Theories and analyses were made, a lot of which ended up being wrong, especially one about Toriel and her role in Chapter 3. One of the few disappointing things from Chapter 3 was Toriel's role in it. Motherfucker had no idea that any of this shit was happening. In hindsight, it does make sense, but at the time, I guess I got my hopes up a little bit. But what if she did play a major role in it? Today, we're gonna delve into a bit of fanfiction, a bit of speculation, a bit of fake news. Today, we're gonna take what Toby Fox is setting up and shove it out the window. We're gonna discuss Deltarune Chapter 3 in the format of Chapter 2. Quickly, before we get into the video, if you're a regular here, please subscribe. It doesn't take a lot, but it motivates me to continue making videos like this. If you're really interested in this channel and want to influence how future videos are made, perhaps join the Discord for discussion and feedback. But anyway, back to the vid. So, when I say the Chapter 2 format, what do I mean? Well, of course there's Snowgrave, but there's also going to be a way for Snowgrave to be active. So that includes separation of the fun game, along with a couple of other miscellaneous things like a boss battle, maybe two, and a palace area. So how is this going to work? Toriel was asleep during the whole chapter. How are we going to wake her up? Well, there's two ways we can go about it. We can do what the Mario movie did and do away with the damsel in distress trope, having Toriel wake up herself, lock the fuck in, and disappear. Or having Chris rescue her after board 2 while the fun gang is snooping around. The snooping around one would probably be the more likely one, as not even Susie could break the capsules herself. However, it is implied from Chapter 2 that the Snowgrave enabler, Noelle in Chapter 2, has much stronger powers than the rest of the fun gang. Some theorizing that the carnage at the start of Chapter 2 was actually done by Noelle and not Queen. So if that's the case, once again, the fun gang reaches the fountain room for the first time, but instead of finding Toriel, they find a half-burnt capsule. Now this is where things change drastically. With the capsule burnt, Susie and Rousey hide behind the unburnt parts, while Chris is less fortunate, instead hiding behind the tree. So now, when Turner comes out, he freaks out. So yeah, now she's escaped. He picks up the capsule again, and this time only finds Susie and Rousey, doing his little channel change thing, teleporting those two back to the board, but leaving Chris alone, just like in Chapter 2. Now, we have another crossroads. We're not really sure what the area between here and the fountain looks like, apart from the right leading to the other door, but to follow that area would be a little bit too much speculation for this video, and we want to follow the events of Chapter 3 as it is now, as close as possible, so instead, we're gonna have Toriel end up somewhere in the TV world. Now, with Tenna and the other two out of the picture, Chris either goes back the way they came, or goes down, leading to that area where the laser guy took us to nowhere, which, assumably, would be the area Toriel would wander to. When Chris finds Toriel doesn't matter too much, as long as they haven't encountered too many enemies, since we need as many as we can to make Toriel stronger. So we'll just say, not long past this point, Chris finds Toriel either wandering around or lecturing some of the enemies, or perhaps just reading them a bedtime story. Now that we've met Toriel, as you know, things could go two ways. Things could take a weird route, or a normal route. We'll start off with Snowgrave, since I'm sure that's what everyone here is interested in. But don't worry, we'll still talk about the normal route, so stick around for that. Starting off with the Snowgrave route, obviously Toriel wouldn't know Snowgrave. Hers would be something more fire-related. Let me know some spell names in the comments, but for simplicity, I'm just gonna name it Heartache. So, working our way up to Heartache, we take out opponents in our way with whatever fire spell Toriel has. We'll call it Infernal Fire Blast for no particular reason. Like Noelle, every enemy defeated with this move will have the enemy be permanently defeated. Instead of freezing, they'll burn to ashes. Though it won't be so dramatic, it'll just be like essentially dusting from Undertale. Just like the game tutorials from Now for Noelle, Snowgrave makes more sense, as the enemies aren't dying per se. There's some plausible deniability as they're just frozen. Also, Noelle was just really easily manipulated by the player, but for Toriel, how are we gonna convince her to kill the enemies? So she'll definitely resist after seeing what the spell does to enemies at the start, so there's two ways the player could go about convincing her. One, they can go all in on the fact that it's a dream, having Chris attack the enemies but not kill them to lull Toriel into following their lead. The other option is a little darker, depending on how you take it, having the player relentlessly command her to do it until she gives in, or even attack her in order to do so. Jesus, this doesn't feel good to write. How did Toriel feel? How did Toby Fox feel right in the Snowgrave shit? man, what the hell. Whereas in the original, we're going from the TV set room to the green room, this time we'll be going from the green room to the sets. I don't exactly know how this is all laid out, but I'm assuming the set is accessed by that door we go to start the next board. Basically, we're going the opposite way through the TV world. I'm assuming the weather couple and ruse cards will just be in the green room like they were in board 2, so there'll be no fight with them as of yet. As you get to the quizzes, Toriel will burn them up. I don't know how that shit would look, maybe just blacked out instead of frozen. She'll probably get one of the answers wrong, get frustrated, burn it up maybe. Or we'll just command her to, I don't know. That probably sounds more in line with the Snowgrave route. Regardless, the Heartache route continues just like the Snowgrave one did until you get to the TV stage. Now once again, we have a few ways of doing this part. First off, we need a Thorn Ring adjacent item. There are 2 ways that we can get it. The first way has us going into the stage. No special encounters. Tenna, Susie and Rouse have all left the building. So you simply go on into the green room and travel up to the S rank room. If you go right, it'll be locked. It'll be locked because we can't abort the Snowgrave route at this point. Also, I don't know what would happen if we went right. It will be too much. It's too complicated. Anyway, one way we can go about doing this is earlier on in one of the areas in the TV world, in one of the little TV sets where we go into the digital world, we can replace that with an ERAM encounter. That's right, for this chapter Stone Ring, we are going to be given it by ERAM. To mirror the chapter 2's final boss giving us the secret item, we're going to have chapter 3's first secret boss give us the item. But what will the item be? Well, as Toriel is a mage in normal Undertale, she won't have a weapon, but despite being a goat, she might have a staff, but she won't have a scarf. Buzz. Even though Rouse has a scarf and is also a mage, I just don't think cross-contaminating the items would be a good idea. Though actually, having her able to equip all of Rouse's leftover scarves does sound pretty cool. But no, I think the options that would be more appropriate for Toriel are crowns, glasses, or crosses. Crowns fit very well as she is shown wearing a crown in her sprite in chapter 3 already, and was of course the queen of the underground for some period of time. To fit with the religious connotations of the Thorn Ring, we could have a thorn crown. Is that the one that knows? Personally, I would go with a cross, like a little necklace around her neck. She's shown to be a deeply religious person already. It'll have some religious connotations to go with the Thorn Ring stuff, and maybe her Thorn Ring version could be an upside down cross? Is that blasphemous? Bro, I should not be talking about such important stuff on this channel. I have no clue what I'm talking about. Maybe it'll be the glasses, as that's the safest option out of the 3 and won't offend any religious groups. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think is the best in the comments down below. But for this video, we'll just say she has the Visor of Doom or some shit. 3D glasses are type thing. Now we have 2 paths for the story based on where we're going to get her glasses, either from before the green room in the digital thing that I told you about before, or in the S rank room. Focusing on the TV world option, once they get to the TV stage, we need to have our Birdly encounter. So say it with me, we have a few options for this. We could do the weather couple, Tenna, or ERAM. I don't particularly like any of these characters getting Snowgraved here because I assume all of them will be important in later chapters, as we are unable to take out any of them in the actual game. Okay, Tenna does get taken out, but Susie's gonna ask too many questions if we take him out here. Plus, I think he's supposed to specifically get murked by the knights because of the prophecy, but so he's probably not the best option here. The weather couple is a bit tricky since rules is tied to them, and we know he's coming back in chapter 6 or 7. Since he always seems to make an appearance in every single chapter. Except for chapter 4, luckily enough. But regardless, we don't want to Snowgrave him. Maybe we'll meet them in the stage room as they're trying to avoid rules. Then they make up and become a couple again from shared hatred of the Tumblr sexy man, and then they get burnt. I don't know. I don't want to kill someone who is unkillable in the normal route. Same goes for ERAM. This can't be the last we see of him, right? So between the 3, I personally think the best option is Tenna. Despite what the prophecy might say, we'll just do a bit of tinkering for our version of the story. Now that we have our encounter, once we meet him in the stage, we'll have some dialogue about him being Toriel's TV, and him being so happy to introduce himself and stuff. But Toriel won't care, and we will have a reflection of the "there's another enemy in front of us" moment. But with Toriel actually excited to fight at this moment, having sunk deeper and deeper into the thought that this is just a dream. One thing I should also mention before the fight starts is that he tells Chris that Susie, Rouse, and himself had a heart-to-heart, essentially having the talk they had at the final act in the normal route but much earlier. And now, Susie and Rouse have gone off back to the final room where, well, we know what's there. Instead of joining them, however, Chris stays and helps Toriel use her Heartache spell, burning Tenna up and taking him out of the game permanently. Before his death, Tenna says something to Toriel, something that will take her out of the chapter, just like Noelle fucked off after the Snowgrave route, after she Snowgraved the bird. So we could have him say something that he saw while he was on TV, maybe something about Asriel, maybe something about divorce, maybe something about Chris, but essentially, after hearing this, Toriel is shook and unwilling to continue, only wishing to wake up. She goes off to one of the couches in the green room and either sleeps, watches TV, or blankly stares forward. Once we get to the green room, it will be completely vacated like at the end of the normal routes. Now we progress to the right for our certain doom, but before we go about that, we'll talk about what would happen if the ERAM encounter was in the S rank room instead. So we get to the TV stage, there's no Tenna this time. We make our way to the green room with Toriel and get the Thorn adjacent item in the S rank room, come back, go right, and there's Tenna. We have another fight with Tenna, but instead of being happy to see Toriel and Chris, he'll be frightened, warning us that Susie and Rouse are in trouble and someone has come to hurt them. Once again, Chris won't care. Toriel burns Tenna, but before she does, Tenna lets out some secret googly boogly phrase that has Toriel walking to the left and back to the couch. Now the two ways of doing it line up. There's no Toriel on the team, and we can either go straight to the fountain, where I'm sure you all expected this already, but the knight will be there. Or we can go up to the S-Rank room again and meet with ERAM, this time to get the Shadow Mantle. He'll definitely comment about the things you've done in this route, saying you enjoyed the fact you were able to skirt the blame, asking if we liked the new item he gave us, before going into the same fight as usual. After the fight, there's no Susie encounter, instead we simply leave and head straight to the knight encounter. Once we get to the area, we'll see Susie and Rouse both downed, with the knight aura farming on top of them, before we get into an insanely difficult 1v1 fight with the knights. Things go on as normal. If you lose, you'll get the option to try again or give up, and if you beat her or give up, it essentially just happens the same as it does in the actual game, with Undyne distracting the knights and getting captured. In this route, Chris will be the one to dislodge the black shard from the knight's sword, or maybe there just won't be a black shard in the Snowgrave route, who knows. And that's it. Toriel wakes up thinking it was all a dream. Susie and Rouse don't know what happened to Tenna, assuming it was a night or something. And we now have a second Snowgrave route. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Would this be a realistic way for the Snowgrave route to play out if Chapter 3 followed the Chapter 2 formula? It's a less manipulative version of events. We're more just like lying to Toriel, telling her, oh yeah, it's just a dream. Go ahead and touch that playing card. If you want to get behind the creation of some of my other videos, join the Discord where I ask for feedback and advice. And now, let's get to the pacifist route. Things are more or less the same, except we aren't killing people, hopefully. However, since his employees aren't getting torched, Tenna will still have his goons around to let Rouse and Susie escape themselves. S&R actions would probably let them escape, so halfway through TV World, they'll meet up with Toriel and Chris. Maybe they're fighting Rules and Weather Couple, so we join in with Toriel. Maybe Rules will take on Susie and Rouse while the Weather Couple fight Toriel and Chris. But after beating them up in battle, Rules runs off, Weather Couple also make up, get recruited, and fuck off. And now, Susie and Rouse have a heart-to-heart with Chris and Toriel. They explain how they were able to escape, have a neat interaction with Toriel. Toriel asks Rouse if they're Asriel. We actually don't know that one way or another even today, so Rouse will just be as cryptic as ever, I guess. Leave it up in the air. I personally think he is, but it's also very possible that he won't be. So Rouse either pretends that he doesn't know who Asriel is, or genuinely doesn't know, and we continue with the rest of the fun gang back to the main area through the TV stage. We can do the S-Rank stuff as normal. Toriel will just wait outside with the others, either watching TV or bonding with Rouse, but everything comes to a head when we finally encounter Tenna. Tenna thanks Toriel for watching the TV for so many years and pleading with her to continue to do so, leading her to say some insensitive shit. We know from Deltarune that she can mean well and not mean to be hurtful or offensive, and yet ends up doing so anyway. So she'll probably end up saying something about how she was trying to get rid of the TV anyway. It was implied that Toriel was going to replace Tenna at some point, so she can say something about that. This will lead Tenna to completely flipping out, trapping Toriel in another capsule and beginning the final fight. Tenna will try and capture the fun gang again, but Susie will stop it, attacking the capsules or destroying them, saying that won't work twice, or something like that. The rest of the fight goes about as normal. Tenna and Susie have a heart-to-heart, but before Tenna has the chance to free Toriel, he is sliced up by the knight. Now, what I find really interesting is what happens when they wake up in Chapter 4, I guess, but in this version, it's going to be in Chapter 3. In Chapter 2, depending on what route you do, Noelle describes her dream as, well, a dream in the normal route, but a nightmare in the Snowgrave route. Toriel, however, might have the opposite reaction. In the Heartache route, she was living a power fantasy, basically being able to defeat anything, destroy anything, and take out all her anger she must have from being abandoned by Asriel, all her frustrations with Asgore, and whatever the brief that the children are giving her at school, I don't know. But in Pacifist, well, her TV turned on her, got sliced up, and she was trapped for the last half, having to watch her child get defeated by the knight. It even says it looks like she was having a nightmare in the normal route anyway, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments how you would have done it. New videos every fortnight, and I will see you later.